We are recording the interview of Lilly Skowvron. This interview is being conducted by Jeremy Tack from the Wright State University's Veteran Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Wright State University in the New Media Incubator. It is 11:15 a.m. December 27th, 2017. Welcome, Lilly. How are you feeling?
Good.
All right. Where and when were you born?
Where and when was I born? I was born at Mount Carmel East in Columbus on December 15th, 1995.
Who are and what did your parents do?
My mom her name's Shirley Skowvron, and she's done a lot of things. She's mainly worked in insurance her entire life. So right now she works at Mount Carmel as that person that you see when you come in and they ask you for your insurance and how you're going to pay for your doctor's visit. And my dad is Barry Skowvron, and he's a firefighter and an EMT out for the city of Columbus.
Do you have any siblings?
I have one older brother. Want me to talk about him?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's 9 years older than me, and he does kind of what I do in the Air Force. He does big oil line and part refurbishing for big companies that can't send their parts out.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Did you have any family members that were in the military?
Everyone but my immediate family. Everyone was mainly either Marines or Navy or Army. I'm the first Air Force baby, I like to put it. No one else wanted to do Air Force but me, and then they're all jealous. They all tell me I made the best decision, so.
So what led to the decision to join the Air Force?
I started looking at colleges my junior year of high school, and then I realized how expensive college was, and my parents weren't poor, but they weren't rich either. So basically I figured out fast that I had to figure out how to pay for college myself, and the Air National Guard offers a scholarship. So that helps me pay for my school, and it was just kind of like, it's easy to sign 6 years, 1 week in a month, 2 weekends a summer, and get free college and come out debt-free. So that was really nice.
And so before you made the decision to join the Air National Guard, correct? What were you doing?
I was in high school, so I was kind of just doing, I guess, what every high schooler does. I was working fast food and just kind of focusing on my studies. I was taking some PSEO classes because I knew I wanted to go to college at some point and get a degree, but just pretty involved with that and like church groups and stuff, so nothing too crazy.
So you joined just right after high school?
Right after high school.
So then you went to boot camp. Tell me about boot camp. What was that like?
Very different if you talk to like different generations, which I've seen like every kind of like rotation has their own things. It wasn't fun, but I would do it over again. I met some of the most amazing people ever and made some of the best connections, people that I still talk to today, like 3 or 4 years later. So that's pretty cool. It was rough. My best friend's dad was an MTI. He retired as a mass sergeant after 20 years. So that was his job for the main portion of his career. So he kind of got me ready for boot camp. So I got used to like yelling and what they were going to say. And he gave me all like the tips and tricks on what to do and what not to do and what to volunteer for and what to stay away from and hide. So it was cool. I'll definitely do it again if I have to.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Yes, I do. I actually remember 2 of them. One was Technical Sergeant Call-Off, which I was in the training squadron, so they were training new MTIs. So they hadn't graduated, so it was kind of weird because we got to see them get yelled at, just like we did, while they were going through their school. We had Technical Sergeant Andrade, who was our female instructor, and then we had one other, but I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but they were all pretty intimidating, but they all had like the main purpose of like getting us through and wanting us to graduate. They didn't really want anyone to fail, and it was cool to see that, to know that like they cared, but like they didn't always show it. They showed in very weird ways. I remember Technical Sergeant Andrade, she's a very short woman and with a very short pixie cut, and she had like the almond cut fake nails, and she was not afraid to get up in your face and like put her hand in your face. And I remember my second week of training, she got in my face and yelled at me because I didn't tie my shoes properly, and it came down to talking about my career field and that if I can't learn to do my job, then I could potentially, basically she said I could have caused an airplane to crash and kill a bunch of military members, and that I need to be more responsible for my job. So let's just say I never did that ever again after that. But they were good MTIs. It's kind of cool because a few people that are in my unit actually had the same MTIs that I had that were below me, and hearing them getting promoted to Master Sergeant in the time that like I graduated basic training was really cool to hear. So it's kind of like you have a mutual respect. Like I definitely don't want to probably ever talk to them again, but it's kind of like knowing that because of them, I'm where I'm at now. So
then after basic training or boot camp, you went to tech school? So let's start off, what was your job in the Air Force?
My AFSC, like the code for it, is water and fueling systems maintenance. The dumbed down version of that is I'm a plumber. So I do plumbing for water systems and fuel systems, technically. So
what led to that choice?
Money. They gave me a sign-on bonus for it, and I couldn't help but think how much that would help with school and any extra costs, because like I said, my parents really couldn't help too much with college because they already sent my brother through. So it just kind of was like another security net that I had for doing that, and I was like, why not? You know, let's learn a trade, so if something in my house breaks, I can fix it myself. So
where was your tech school at?
It was in Wichita Falls, Texas. There's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing around there. It's just dirt and jackrabbits. That's pretty much it.
How long was the tech school?
It was 15 and a half weeks, so just shy of 4-ish months.
So what was tech school like for you?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, long class hours. I actually decided they have an airman leadership program through there, so like you can get different color ropes, like green ropes, yellow ropes, and red ropes, and I decided that if I was going to be there for so long, might as well work the way to the top. So I ended up graduating with a red rope, so I was in charge of the squadron before I left. And that was a fun experience. That actually helped me when it came to applying to college and getting into nursing school. So it's kind of cool to see how my military life crossed over with my school life.
Is there any instructors there at tech school that you remember?
There's a few. The most memorable ones were like my ones in my first few weeks of training that taught strictly plumbing, because there's this one block where you have Army, Air Force, and Navy instructors, and after you get your booth set up for plumbing, because your first few blocks are just straight plumbing, that's all you do, and so you hook up like sinks, toilets, urinals, and a shower, and you have to do the under the booth work, so like the, I guess, underground, like the behind the scenes work. And what they'll do is they take you out of the class your last week of that block, and they literally cut everything up. They take hacksaws to everything, untwist everything, and they make you come in, and one person's underneath the booth to turn the water on, and the other one's on top, and you have to turn the water on while you guys are both in there so that you can figure out where the leaks are at, and you're supposed to temporarily patch the leaks, and then you can turn the water off, and then you're supposed to make repairs, and then you get judged on your repairs, like if there's any leaks, and that determines if you pass or fail that block. So it was a lot of fun. Definitely a messy job, even in tech school. There's obviously like rules of what they can let us do and what they can't let us do, but definitely a lot of hands-on work, because it's like CE, any career field between like electrical and like structure, they're all hands-on, because that's something you have to like, you can read how to do it, but until you get your hands like in the mix and figure out what to do, it's pointless just to read a book. You have to get your hands-on experience.
So up until this point, what was it like adapting to military life?
I don't want to say it was hard. It was definitely different being a female, because you have like two main viewpoints of like, especially now that like women can do anything, we need to have equal rights and everything, like equality across the board. Like if he can do it, I can do it. And then you still have like the people who are like, no, she's a female, she can't do that. Like that wrench is too big for her, or like, oh, I'll get it, why don't you go do this? And it's like, well, I do the same thing as you, I've been trained the same way. So like that's probably been the hardest thing for me to get used to, is like switching back and forth and trying to meet people's expectations. But honestly, it hasn't been too hard. I've been so used to it, it's just kind of like a way of life now. And all my friends are in the military, so like they kind of get what I'm going through too, so. But.
All right, so upon graduating tech school, what was the next move?
I got to go home. So I wasn't like my active duty friends that all got there next fall on station. I graduated, I took my test Friday. I had Friday night left to pack, and I shipped out at 8 a.m. on Saturday, just went straight home.
Mm-hmm.
And that was weird. Mm-hmm. That was definitely weird coming back because explaining to like my family, kind of like I talked to my family pretty often while I was in tech school because I could have my phone and I was able to do that, but it was still like different being in Texas for so long and then coming back to Ohio, and like the weather, the climate, everything was different. And like all my friends, it's kind of weird to see like everyone was finishing up like their freshman year of college and I hadn't really even started school. So that was a little bit of a culture shock that I felt like I was kind of left behind a little bit. But after that, for civil engineering, you have to have so many like seasoning days, so you have to work on base for a certain amount of time and get more hands-on training. So I started that Tuesday, I think. I went into base and worked like, I think it was 50 some days, and we worked like 10-hour shifts. So just doing that, and I got to go out with state employees that showed me kind of like what I was supposed to be doing on base when I came in. So.
And that's just more training for
just more training for me to get my next level, because you have like your 1, 3, 5, and 7 level. Like I came out of tech school as like a 3 level, so that meant like I can do some stuff by myself, but I always had to have supervision, and anything I did, like they couldn't send me out by myself. And like hopefully after this coming year, I'll have my 5 level, so that means I can be proficient on my own and I don't have to have a supervisor, and then I'll be moved into a supervisory role eventually, so that's really exciting. But.
So after this training period, did you have to balance school and work because you started attending school, is that correct?
I didn't start school because of how my seasoning days ran. They weren't finished by the time I finished the first semester, fall semester was going to start. So I ended up taking that entire semester kind of off and just working for one of my old employers from high school until that spring. And I started my prereqs for nursing this spring.
And
So.
What's it like balancing school and military life?
At first it wasn't hard. It was pretty easy because it was like 1 week in a month, so I just made sure I had all my homework done before I went home for the weekend. And my parents lived pretty close to base, so I could just stay with them on the weekends when I came home, and then I would just come back to school. It's gotten a little harder because stuff has gotten more in depth. My unit got deployed this past year, so figuring out that was really stressful. It was really hard because I was supposed to start a semester sooner than I was, and then we were going to be deployed during that semester, and I was trying to figure out how they were going to let me apply, because with the nursing program you have to interview and do like a bunch of paperwork and extra stuff, and when I was supposed to interview for that next semester was while I was overseas still. So then the time difference was too much, and it was like, how do you want me to go about this? So that was fun, trying to figure out how to do all of that. It was a little stressful, but.
So where did you deploy to?
Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar. So right outside of the city of Doha.
And what did you do there?
I strictly did plumbing. A lot of stuff over there has somewhat moved to contracting for certain jobs, and Dynacor contract does the contract for the fuel systems. So anything fueling related, they handled. It was not us, but they were so gracious to let us come, and they did a few training days for us to like look at the systems out there, because they're very different than what we have in state. So it was kind of cool to get some hands-on with those, but it wasn't very often at all. So it was just strictly plumbing. So we handled water purification there, so chlorinating the water, sewage systems, and then DIN, so do it now, like work orders and stuff, like you call in, my sink's broken or my toilet's clogged. Those were always the fun ones.
And did you deploy individually or with your unit?
So my unit, a good majority of the firefighters, because CE, we got tasked, it was our RCP cycle that just so happened to come up. The firefighters left, I think, about 2 months before we did, and a lot of them went to Al Dhafra and I think like Abu Dhabi and a few other places. They were kind of split up, and RCE got jet tasked, so they were forward deployed. There was only about 5 of us that stayed in Qatar, and everyone else, their home base was Qatar, but they got to go to a bunch of unnamed countries and do their job, which I'm not gonna lie, I was a little jealous of. I really, really wanted to do that, but like I knew I got put in Qatar for a reason, and I think I got the best training possible where I was at. I think I was supposed to be there. So there's only one other person from my shop. There's a total of 5 of us. The other 3 got forward deployed, and 1 got put in my shop there in Qatar. And there was like a few dirt boys, like heavy equipment operators that were there as well. But majority of people were in and out. So I saw people, but not often, because their jobs were all different in what they had them doing. So there was about 70 of us, I think, that went.
Okay.
So.
How did you keep in contact with family and friends back home?
Mainly through Facebook. It was really cool. Facebook has their messenger app, which has been like really updated, so you can make calls with Wi-Fi now and like video chats and messaging. And the biggest complication was just the time difference. It was just like when I was getting up to go to work, they were going to bed, and when I was going to bed, they were getting up for work. So like it kind of worked out sometimes, but like sometimes if you call like an hour too soon, it's like 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. and you're waking them up. So that was the only thing, but they're always happy to hear from me. They enjoyed that. I tried to call my family pretty often, or at least message them like daily, because I was in a place where we had Wi-Fi, and like a lot of people weren't lucky enough to have Wi-Fi. So I kind of took advantage of it when I could. So.
What'd you do for fun on free time?
Went to the gym a lot. There's pretty much not much to do on base-wise. They have 2 BXs. One's like a 24-hour, one that's in a tent. So like I went there a lot. They had Pizza Hut there. Not as good as in the States by any means, but definitely better than DFAC there. So I ate a lot of pizza and just kind of hung out with friends, went to the gym. They had this thing called the bra. It's a tent, and they call it the bra because it looks like one. So a lot of people would go out there and like smoke their cigars or cigarettes or play card games and kind of just chill and get drinks. And sometimes like on long days of work, we'd all like go get Pizza Hut, and then we sit down and like everyone would have a beer, and it was kind of just everyone had their chance to like relax and see how everyone's days went, and it was really cool. I met some cool people that way.
Did you get a chance to go off base at all?
Yes, there was a lot of cool things. It's so different over there. It's kind of like really cool to see the culture difference, because it's not like what social media always portrays. Like there's always those bad people over there trying to do horrible things, but a lot of people were friendly. It was very westernized compared to what people think. A lot of people come there from different countries for work. So there's a lot of like Filipinos and people from Cambodia and India, like a bunch of different countries just coming to work there. So like there's a mix of cultures, more than what people think. And like it wasn't your typical, you had people that were just like me with short sleeves and like jeans, then you had people that were like fully covered, and like everyone was kind of did their own thing. Like no one bothered you. It was really cool to go to the souks. So they had these markets where you could go off base, and amazing food. Really good food, lamb obviously, and then hookah. We got to try that. It's much different than here. It's pretty legit over there. And get to shop, that's where I shop for like my family. Like I got them like small trinkets to take home and a lot of handmade items. Their big commodity over there is like pearls. So like you'll go to the souks and like every other store is like, they'll have pearls, and it's like a big deal, and they're really cheap because there's just so many of them. But we also, you could take excursions. You could pay to get picked off like right outside the gate, and one of them we did, it was called Arabian Nights. So they picked us up in these like luxury like Toyotas, and they took us out to the middle of nowhere, deflated the tires, and took us like sand dune riding, which was pretty intense. There was a few times I was like really surprised, like the truck just didn't turn over. But they do that for like 2 hours, and then they take you to a private beach, because you can't, as a female, you can't go to a public beach because you have to dress a certain way. With us being able to go to a private beach and we paid, you could wear a bathing suit and you're fine. And then we got like traditional food, and then we got to smoke hookah right on the beach, and it was really fun. It was really pretty. The water's extremely blue over there. It's not like the clear crystal blue, but it's like that light aqua, and it's just perfect at like sunset and for taking pictures. So we did that a lot. It was fun.
Did you make any friends there that you still keep in contact with?
Oh yeah, I have friends that are stationed out in California. I have friends that are stationed in Germany that I met. People that I'll like always consider friends, even though like I don't talk to them every day. I definitely know that like if I message them, they're gonna respond. But it was kind of cool. It's like anything on any Air Force trip. Like you'll meet a few people that you'll just click with, and then you'll know that like if you ever run into them again, it's like gonna be like no time ever passed. And I definitely made a few friends out there like that I won't forget. So it was really cool. they did have a bar there on base that you could go dancing. They had different theme nights. They had like hip hop night, Latin night, country night, and I love country dancing. So I went every Saturday night, whether or not I had work or not the next day, because we only got one day off a week, which is more than most people do. So I was really happy that we had one day. But I learned how to get better at my two-step skills while I was over there, and I met a few friends that are really good at dancing. So it was a lot of fun. That was how a lot of people relieve stress, is they'd go dancing or like go to because they'll teach classes too. So like if you don't know how to two-step or like bachata, they'll teach you how to do it, and that was always kind of fun to do. But
so you mentioned you had only one day off a week. What was the shift work like?
The first day that I got there I think on the 20th or 21st of January, and I got in at 4 p.m. and we had to drag our bags all through customs because you had to make sure your bags didn't have any prohibited items. They give you a list, so you shouldn't have any before you deploy. But basically you have to wait to in-process, go through Qatari National, like they're in-processing, learn a little bit of their customs. So you're obviously not offensive. Like you hand your CAT card with like your right hand. You never pass anything with your left hand. It's very rude. And just doing that and then taking your bags through customs, then you have to wait for your shop to pick you up. Because like everyone comes in like different rounds, and there was like 6 of us I think that came in that day, and they drug all our luggage into the back of trucks, and then they took us to the shop and kind of like briefed us like, hey, like these are the people that are here, we still have a few more people coming in after you, like this is what it's going to look like. You start work at 06 the next day. So they made us stay for the rest of the work day, so I stayed till 6 p.m. because they were working 12s. And I showed up for work at 06 the next day and didn't get off till 6 p.m. And we worked for about 2.5 weeks with no days off. There's people that have been there 4 weeks before me that were still working 12s with no days off. So they were definitely starting to feel it. But once our entire rotation got in and everyone kind of got used to their job and what they're supposed to be doing, the leadership kind of lightened up and we're like, okay, like we're gonna shorten the days a little bit. Okay, like you guys can finally have a day off. Like you caught up, because the last rotation before us left us a lot of work. The last month they pretty much kind of stopped working. They always tell us not to talk bad about the last rotation, but they really did. We had like 5 pages of work orders, and they want you to keep it down to like a page or 2, and because each page has about 15 of them, and we had 6. There was a lot to do when we first got there, so they really wanted us to buckle down so we could have that kind of steady pace the rest of the deployment and not have to be like constantly stressed about getting stuff done and having leadership hanging over us. So it wasn't too bad. After the first few weeks, it kind of got more relaxed and everyone got used to their roles. Since I was a lower ranking airman that didn't have my 5 level, they wanted me to learn everything. So I spent about 2.5, 3 months on DIN, so just doing work orders, going out with a staffer, tech sergeant, just kind of like learning my job, and then they switched me to sewer. I was not very fond about that. I really didn't want to do sewer. It's really disgusting because it's very hot over there, so like the sewage just kind of like dries up and it smells extremely bad. It's a pretty disgusting job, and there's no way to like sugarcoat any of it, but the pumps clogged on a regular basis, so like my job, these pumps are heavy. You have to have a chain hoist to pick them up because they're at least 60 to 70 pounds, if not heavier. So like there's a process of lifting it out of the pit, and these pits are anywhere from like 15 to 20 feet deep. So you have to hoist it up and then clean it off because it's been sitting in sewage, obviously, and then you have to open it up and take the impellers out and like unclog it and make sure like you're putting it all back together. Like that's definitely a part of my job, and I definitely needed to learn that. It's just the least glamorous part. So I was doing a lot of that, and then like just maintenance of the lift stations since it was so hot. We had a lot of electrical issues because going from a lot of stuff it was a mix of like European and American and like Qatari stuff. So like the electrical voltages and everything was different. So it was just kind of like getting used to that and figuring stuff out. So we always had electrical issues, it seemed like, but that was that main part of that job, was just kind of like taking care of around base, making sure nothing overfilled, because if that happened, it was a big deal, because everyone can see something like that happening. CE's job is like behind the curtain until something goes wrong. So it was very important that we made sure everything was going smoothly all the time. And then my last month and a half, they changed me over to water systems. So like the water distribution and the pipelines, and we have to chlorinate the water. The water comes from off base, and there's certain checks that you have to do twice a day. So we check our water pyramids, because you're not allowed to have like water tanks there, because there's specific Qatari rules and laws about having buildings at certain heights. And so we had these like, they're just like these big buildings that just like looks like a big sand dune that was just painted brown. And it was actually, so I think they were like 20,000 gallon water tanks. And we'd have to check the levels for those and check the chlorine levels to make sure they were holding a certain parts per million so people wouldn't get sick, because a lot of that water was used to prepare food on base. So we had to make sure that it was safe to use, safe to shower. We chlorinated the pool, we took care of the pool, which was really hard because they didn't have chillers. So like, you know, here we can heat and cool our pools, and over there our chillers went out a long time ago, so the pool water would get very hot, and the hotter the water gets baking off the sun, the less chlorine stays in the pool, and like more bacteria and stuff can grow. So that was like a very, very big part of our job, was making sure that pool stayed chlorinated so no one would get sick. That was our main thing. And also the Qataris have their thing, like they do a lot of construction because they have the World Cup is going to be over there in the next few years. So they turn off the water when they please, and they don't necessarily have to always let us know when that happens. So we had to monitor certain pipelines to make sure we were getting a certain amount of pressure through them, because if we weren't, we'd have to put in like water conservation like rules and like, hey, this is when you can use water, this is when you can't, especially if they turn it off, because the base only has so much water supply from those tanks once the water's turned off. So it was very important to do your checks. You could never miss one. If you couldn't, you'd have to let someone else know, and they would have to go do it for you. And that was an all-day thing. It was driving a truck with no AC all day. So it got very hot after a certain point in July. It was hitting like 130 with a small little Ranger with no AC, so it kind of sucked at the end. But you know, it was my job. That was what I was there to do. I learned a lot. So.
So what did your family or your friends thought back home about you being deployed to Qatar?
My mom definitely kind of freaked out. She was definitely really worried. My family is pretty religious, so like they're just like, you know, we're just gonna keep praying for you. You know, just kind of like believe God has a plan and like something's going on in your life, but like just don't do anything stupid still that doesn't give you the right to like go crazy over there. But my mom definitely she was excited for me because she knew the training opportunities and it's something I wanted to do, but she's still, like any other mother, kind of like, you're going to the Middle East and you see what's going on the news from Fox and CNN, so like it freaks people out a lot. But my friends thought it was pretty cool. They were pretty excited for me. They definitely sometimes don't understand when I talk about things. Like I wasn't in a combat situation or anything, but like I was still like away from my family and friends for 6 months doing stuff that I wasn't used to, and like it was hard in its own sense, and sometimes they don't necessarily understand when I try to explain something to them now. They still try their best, but they were just kind of like, that is all you. They're like, they thought it was pretty awesome. They're just kind of like, we couldn't do something like that, even though I always say if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I was the least expected to go into the military. Like when I was in high school, I didn't say I got made fun of, but I was constantly told like I was gonna fail and that like I wasn't gonna make it through, and that like there was no way that I was actually joining the Air Force. And it's kind of cool after the fact, looking back, that all those people that told me that like I wouldn't do it see me now, and they always tell me how awesome it is that I'm doing what I'm doing, and they never thought I would, and I was kind of just like, I know, I knew I could, and I did. But like everyone kind of has that response. I think it's very cool compared to like what's going on, like because a lot of people in our generation don't want anything to do with the military and kind of like what's going on. So they definitely have kudos for that.
So what did you think when you first got orders to Qatar?
I was excited. I had that stage of like super pumped and excited, and then I kind of had a pit in my stomach because I knew that I always wanted to go to school for nursing, and I worked so hard to get to where I was at that point, and like it was already hard enough bouncing back from school after tech school, trying to like switch back from like plumbing back to civilian life, back to nursing school, and then like having to do that again. It kind of made me really nervous. What I told myself was that it was going to be a summer vacation I didn't have. To kind of like, I always tried to maintain positive about it, and that helped my like future outlook with it. And then like I kind of, once I was able to figure out what I was doing with school, I was able to look forward to it more and more, and definitely don't regret it. I would do it again. So.
Has your deployment or your military service changed your outlook on life at all?
I'd say it would. I definitely took a lot of things for granted, and I didn't realize that till I was over there and came home. I had a family member pass away while I was over there, so it was like very hard, like realizing like anything can happen while you're over there, and just like knowing that like each day is very important to tell people like that you care about them and that you love them. So yeah, I definitely like it did. I took a lot of things for granted, and I feel like I realized like how, I want to say stuck up my generation is, but kind of like how their outlook of like how they sometimes feel entitled and so deserving, and like just seeing people and meeting someone like what we call them TCNs, third country nationals that used to come to Qatar to work, and we would hire them, and just hearing their stories and like how they lived, and I'm just like, wow, like I totally have never had to deal with that because I've never had any issues with money or like feeding my family or like getting a job. So it kind of just like took me back a little bit and made me a lot more grateful for what I had back home. So like made coming home even sweeter. So, you know, it's definitely life-changing.
So what was it like coming home? How were you received by your family and friends?
I actually didn't tell my family I was coming home. I told my brother I was coming home and a few friends, but I didn't tell my mom. I originally told my dad, but my dates changed multiple times due to some stuff like going on over there, and just kind of like military's hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, and it's never changed, and I don't think it ever will. But I ended up telling him the wrong dates of when I was coming home, because I was supposed to come home like almost 2 weeks before I actually did. So I was like, I'm just not going to tell him my new dates. I'm just going to tell my brother. And what stuck was we got stuck in Kuwait for over a day due to crew illness with the company that was flying us home. So it was funny because my brother invited himself over to my parents for dinner thinking I was going to be home that day and he was just going to bring me along. And my mom was like really confused on like what was going on, because my brother, he's older and has kids, so like for him just to show up at our house, it's kind of like, what's going on? Like, is there something going on? And it was even funnier because the next day when I actually came home, he invited my parents over to his house for dinner, and my mom's like, there's something going on. Like, there's really something like screwed up happening. Like, she kind of was like really freaking out about it. Like, my brother was on the phone with her for like 20 minutes trying to convince her to come over. Like, no, like we just want to have dinner with you. Like, nothing's happening. And the entire time I was hiding in their bedroom, and my parents were sitting on the couch, and his fiance had the kids sitting on my parents' lap. I have a niece that's 9 and a nephew that's about to be 3, and they're sitting on my parents' laps taking pictures, and Chris had this code word for me to come out of the bedroom. And so they're sitting there, and she starts taking a video like, hey, like smile, like, you know, going on, and I have flowers for my mom, and I'm standing behind the couch, and I was there for like, I swear it felt like 5 minutes, and I was like, is she gonna turn around? Like, my mom has stealth hearing, and she just didn't hear me. I'm like, I'm in combat boots and a ruffly uniform, and she didn't hear me come in, and I was just like, should I say something? I'm like looking at my brother, like, what do I do? And he was just like, say something, and I was like, hi guys. And my mom and dad's face, like, they were just like, I'm pretty sure my dad threw my nephew off of his lap. Like, he just didn't know like what to do. Like, he just stood up so fast, and like Ina and Emery, like, they already knew what was going on, so they like were all excited. But my mom was just like in absolute tears, and she's like, how are you here right now? You're not supposed to be here. Like, what are you doing? And like she just was flabbergasted that I was there. And there's only been a handful of times that like my dad, the first time like I ever heard my dad like tell me he was proud of me, one was when I graduated basic training. And the only time he's ever like, I've seen him cry tears of joy or like happiness or any tears. And like when I came home, like I could tell that he was happy that I was there because like he hugged me and he was crying, and it was just like a really good feeling to know that like they still cared. Like I knew they did, but like actually being able to like see them and hug them was a great feeling. And it was funny because at the airport, I was the only person without family at the airport, and everyone was just like, my commander was there, our MSG commander, and I've talked to her multiple times, and she was just like, where's your family at? Like, I know your mom, like, where is she at? And I was just like, they don't know I'm home. And she's like, she like freaked out. She was like, if you were my daughter, I swear, she was like, this would not be happening right now. She's like, you better get home because your parents are, you need to get home. So like she helped me like load my bags into like my brother's car, and then like I had a different support system while I was there, so like it wasn't like I was coming home to nothing. But it was definitely weird being at the airport and everyone was just like had their families. Like one of the guys that was in my shop, his wife had their baby. Wow. He was overseas. She had him 2 weeks before he got home. So like everyone's like meeting their new babies and like seeing their wives and stuff. And I was just like, okay, bye guys, I'm gonna go surprise my family. But it was definitely like really cool. I didn't think I was gonna be able to pull it off because I talk a lot and I can never hold a secret in. And my mom was very impressed. She was like, I didn't even know, like I can't believe. She's like, did everybody know? And I was just like, yeah, everyone but you pretty much. And she was just like, I can't believe everyone lied to me for this long. But it was definitely a cool feeling coming home and having that, because then like got to go eat some good food that I hadn't had in a really long time, and just kind of had some chance to kind of like decompress and relax and kind of just breathe, it felt like, because it was a very stressful trip coming home. Like I said, we got stuck overseas and it was very stressful, because we traveled for an extra like 2 or 3 days. The flight that left a day and a half after us got home before us. So it was very frustrating at a certain point, but it was definitely a good feeling being home.
What was it like readjusting back to civilian life?
It's still kind of hard because I'm still, I don't want to say like I'm still dealing with stuff, but there is like I said, there was stuff that happened while I was over there that was like out of my control. So kind of like coming to terms with a few things and like dealing with stuff. People don't, like I said, don't always understand my viewpoint. Like I wasn't in a combat situation, but I was still away from home from 6 months, and like having that culture shock, it's almost like a reverse culture shock. Like coming back and like being back here and just kind of dealing with people's attitudes here is completely different than over there, and it's just kind of like, I've noticed like my temperament's changed a lot. Like my tolerance for certain things has changed. I feel like I grew up a lot in the 6 months that I was gone. I wouldn't say I'm your typical like 21-year-old sorority chick. Like I don't consider myself like that. I feel like I'm quite a few years older than my friends in a certain sense. So like dealing with that, with everyone else kind of still being in like a different mindset than I am, it's been a little weird trying to like figure that out. And like schools, it made me nervous. Nursing's really hard. So like I really started to question if I came back to school too soon, because I only had about 2.5 weeks to prepare for school. So it was very stressful, and I was really wondering, like questioning my career choice, questioning like, should I even be in school right now? Am I coming to the right school? Like, I still have those doubts. I think it's just because nursing's so hard that I have those doubts on a constant basis, but like, it's been better than when I first came home. But it's still definitely like a process. I feel like it's going to take me still like a little while longer to fully get used to being back here, because everything was so different there, from going like straight active duty back to civilian life, whereas like all my active duty friends, they had that chance to go home and they had that decompression time, but they went back to a strict schedule. They like that's their job. They do electrical or plumbing like 7 days a week at their base, whereas like I don't have like kind of a strict schedule. I kind of go to class on this day and I kind of don't. So I think that's kind of affected my routine and like how I've adjusted, because I haven't had like a set thing to kind of like do every day. So it's still a process, but it's fun.
So as part of the guard, you do the 1 week in a month?
Yes. My first weekend back, I got some time off. So I didn't have to come to that drill, but the next drill I came back to. So it's been fine. We've been just doing like paperwork to catch up on stuff while we're gone and getting like in process, turning our gear back in. So it hasn't been like too crazy stressful on that level. It's been pretty simple.
Do you think it was a good choice to join the guard versus active duty?
I question that a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I really sometimes think that I don't know if college is always for me. I think every college student though has that doubt at some point in their career, like, am I really doing the right thing? Like, do I really want to be spending all this money for this degree? But like, when I think about it, if I wouldn't have sworn when I did, if I wouldn't have picked the career field I did, the base that I wanted to be at, I wouldn't have gone to basic training when I did and met the amazing woman that I met there, and I wouldn't have gone to tech school when I did and had the instructors and met my friends that I have now that I'll have for God knows how long. Like, I wouldn't have met the people I did. I wouldn't have had the experiences I've had so far. I wouldn't have been deployed. So like, I really don't regret the choice that I made, because every step that I've taken has brought me to where I'm at now, and I can say that I'm pretty content where I'm at right now.
At this point in time, do you feel you're going to make the guard a career? Do you feel like you might ever go active duty in the future, or how do you see your military career going on in the future?
I definitely, from when I first enlisted, decided that I wanted to make this a career. I figured even if it was guard-wise, 1 week in a month for 20 years is not that hard of a commitment. I have decided, like, I've been thinking about since like I'm single and I have 2.5 years of college, like, who knows what's gonna happen. I've kind of thought about active duty, even though like I feel like I might be, I don't want to say like a little too old to go active duty, but like I'll be 24 or 25. Most people are like settling down by that time and kind of like stuck where they're at, but like I never had that opportunity to just travel and do what I want to do. So like I'm kind of in between of what I want to do. I definitely know that I want to commission as an officer and hopefully as a nurse, and stay in the Air Force. Definitely staying in the Air Force. And I kind of want to be a flight nurse. I kind of like a little bit of the adrenaline. I get that from my dad being a paramedic and a firefighter. I always wanted to do what he did. So like I kind of want to be like hands-on in the action. So like we'll see how that plays out later on. But like as of right now, definitely want to do 20 years and definitely want to commission.
Awesome. So just wrapping up here, do you have a message for future generations that might be watching this interview?
I don't know. I feel like I've said like a lot of things throughout the interview I can't really think of, other than military's not as scary as everyone thinks. Like I said, if I can do it, anyone else can do it, and it's definitely brought me like lifelong friends, education benefits that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and just like basically like as a woman you can do anything you can put your mind to. Like a lot of girls, I went back and talked to my high school at a career fair, and I had like 3 or 4 girls come up to me and talk to me about like, where do I even get started on joining the military? Like, is it hard? Like, what is it like? Like, is it hard being a female and doing that stuff? And it was kind of cool because I had that opportunity to be like, hey, you know, you can do anything you want to do as long as you set your mind to it and like are persistent with it. Then anything's possible. And just being able to like influence people like that, and just showing that like, just being able to show and lead by example has been something that's been like really amazing, especially being in the Air Force. Like I guess I haven't realized how much like I've influenced like people like my niece who's like 10 years old. She's like, I want to join the military, and I'm just like, okay, hold on, you're not even in middle school yet. We'll talk about this when you're in high school. But just being able to show that like women can do anything, and that like just that empowerment that like girls don't always get or see, and that's kind of cool being able to do that. So.
Awesome. It's a great message. Is there anything you'd like to add that we haven't talked about?
No, I think I talked a lot, so I think I'm pretty good.
All right. Well, thank you, Lily, and thank you for your service.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you.
That concludes the interview.